Hey guys, this is the last week of our study on different. We are concluding our summer series, and next week we will be kicking off with Promotion Sunday. Promotion Sunday is an opportunity for us to welcome brand new students, welcome some students back, and it'll be a lot of fun. There won't necessarily be a lesson for Promotion Sunday because the entire day will be based on celebrating and just getting to know our groups. We'll have games. We'll actually have a special guest speaker. I'm excited about the guy that we have coming in. It kind of came into our lap and real quick. There's a guy coming named Dylan Novak, and he is known as the celebrity evangelist. And long story short, he married a girl that I actually grew up with. And one of the things, and that's kind of how the connection happened, and he's in the area. And so I said, yeah, let's do it. Let's have you come and share. But he's actually been able to personally witness to over 1,500 different celebrities. There's just some things that he's learned about witnessing. And I love this because part of our theme for this upcoming year is going to be the word go. That God has called us to go to people. And so here's someone, we can start the entire year off with someone who has been going literally to some of the top people in power, as well as those in culture and influence, and been sharing the gospel with them and just being able to hear some of his stories and be encouraged that way. So with this last week, we are focusing on the idea of humility with this big idea, and that's this: I am second. We have been called to join Jesus on the mission of the gospel, and the gospel goes to seek and save the lost. That's what Jesus said he came to do. He came to seek and save the lost, and we, as his followers, have joined him in that mission. And the only way we can do that is if we have the mindset that we are second. Our desires are second, our dreams are second, our plans are second. Everything about us is second to the cause and call of Jesus in our lives. In order to do that, we have to show humility. So we're going to be talking a lot about humility. We're going to be looking at Philippians 2 and the mind of Christ and how Jesus demonstrated humility and how he's challenged us and given us some specific things to be humble. So to kind of open up the lesson, I've got a short 2 different quizzes, and these can be done very quickly, very easily. And the idea is who has made a bigger impact in your life? Who do you actually remember? And so the first quiz is like, name 3 people with the largest Instagram following. Okay, they're influential, supposedly, because they have a large following, but do you actually know them? Name the last 3 Nobel Peace Prize winners, right? The people who are inventing things and creating things that are helping the entire world, but who are they? Then name 3 of the richest people in the world. Now, they might be able to get some of those, right? With Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg and those guys, Elon Musk, I don't think they're the 3 richest, but they're up there. So that's kind of the first quiz. Like, who are these people who have a lot of influence, a lot of power, a lot of authority? They've accumulated a lot of stuff. Then the second quiz is this: name 3 people who've helped you through a tough time. Then name 3 people who have made you feel special. And then finally, name 3 people who taught you something worthwhile. And the thing is what we're trying to help them understand, that you're going to ask which quiz is easier and why is it easier? Because the people that serve us, the people that place our needs above their own needs, the people who stop thinking only about themselves and think about us, those are the people that stand out in our lives. Those are the people who make a difference in our life. So, like I said, we're going to be walking through Philippians chapter 2 and really focusing in on this idea that I am second. And so there's 3 big ideas to this, or I keep saying big ideas. There's 3 sub-point ideas, 3 ideas that we want our students to walk away with. The first is that I'm second to the church. The second is I'm second to Jesus. And then the third is that I'm second to the lost. Kind of there's 3 different relationships. I'm second to others in the church. In Philippians 2 verses 1 through 4, we see this idea in verses 3 and 4 that we're supposed to count others more important than ourselves. And so one of the discussion questions is like, what is humility and why is it needed? I've often heard it said that humility is not thinking less of yourself, it's spending less time thinking about yourself. Humility is not saying, oh, well, I'm not a very good teacher, when you're a good teacher. Humility is not LeBron James saying, oh, I'm not a very good basketball player. Humility might be him saying, like, I don't know if I'm the GOAT, right? That might be a little bit of humility, but him saying, I'm not a good basketball player. Well, that's just straight up lying. That's not humility. Humility is thinking less, spending less time thinking about yourself. And so when we spend less time thinking about ourselves, that means we're going to spend more time thinking about the people around us. And as we begin thinking about the people around us, begin looking for ways to serve them. I love how one of the things it says is, to count others more significant than yourself. And so in verse 3, it says, how does a humble person treat others? They count their needs more significant than themselves. And then lastly, what would happen? I love this. This is kind of the dreaming question. What would happen if more people looked out for the needs of others? Just think about how would that impact your family, right? If everyone in your family thought about the needs of others, how would that impact your school? How would that impact your community? But ultimately, Paul's calling us to do this in the context of the local church. And so the people in our church, the people that are sitting in my life group, I'm supposed to be second to them. My leader, I'm supposed to be second to him. The people that I sit in rows with and we worship together, my needs are second to their needs. How can I serve the people in my church? And as we do that, the church will become a place where we really will get to practice heaven. A place where everyone is being loved, everyone is serving one another, everyone is getting to live out the love of Jesus towards one another. So then that leads to kind of the second big idea, is that I'm supposed to be second to Jesus. And in verses 5 through 11, we see that the mind of Christ is that of being humble, that Jesus didn't think himself to be equal with God, even though he was, but he was willing to lower himself, to humble himself. There's some really good discussion questions, specifically when it comes to the cross. Like, do you think it was difficult for Jesus to go to the cross, and why? And then ultimately looking at, what happened when Jesus was willing to demonstrate humility? What happened to him as a result? Because what we want to see is that God, at the end of the day, God rewards those who humble themselves. There's a section of scripture that says, whoever is first will be last, but the last will be first. Whoever places themselves behind, whoever puts the needs of others before themselves, they will be glorified and honored in heaven. And so as a result, my mission in life, my goals in life need to be second to that of Jesus. So if Jesus has something he wants me to do, like sharing the gospel, that needs to come before my own personal goals. And then finally, this is kind of what it's all pointing to, is that I'm second. My needs, my desires, my goals, I'm second to the lost. Those who don't know Jesus. I was just having this conversation recently with someone that everything about Jesus, everything that he did in some way, whether directly or indirectly, was geared towards reaching the lost. Even if he was just pouring into his disciples, you'd be like, well, he wasn't trying to reach the lost there. No, he was trying to train and equip the disciples to think outside themselves, to see the lost and minister to the needs of the lost. So whether he was directly doing it, or he was training people to do it, or he was praying towards it, Jesus was constantly thinking towards, who are the lost people around me? How can I serve them? How can I minister to them? In other words, their needs are more significant than my need. Constantly, we see Jesus being willing, like he's ministered all day. He's tired. He's probably hungry. He's worn out, and people show up. And what does he do? He puts aside his desire to eat. He puts aside his desire to just sleep, and he ministers to their needs. And so I am second to the needs of the lost people around me. I need to tell them about Jesus. And specifically, Philippians 2:12 through 18, there's a section in there that talks about working out your salvation. And in this is this idea that I can't just think like I'm thinking like Jesus. I gotta actually live this out. I gotta work this out. Now, this might come up. Some people might read this and go, oh, okay, so I'm supposed to work out my salvation. My works are what save me. But that's not true. At the end of the day, I'm supposed to be saved by Jesus and then work these things out. I'm supposed to let him begin changing my life. So before Jesus, and this is true about all of us, we're really selfish. We only think about ourselves. How is Jesus changing me? And I'm going to work out my salvation as I allow Jesus to change my heart and I begin serving other people rather than just my own needs. And the last question in here I think is really good. How is Paul's idea here, like the pouring out of Jesus's life, how is that related to us? And he talks about like a drink offering. And I put a note in there about what is a drink offering, because that's probably going to be a surprise, probably to all of our middle school students and even our high school students. But the drink offering, this idea of something that you could consume just being poured out in honor to the Lord, and that it's okay if my life is poured out to honor God. I'm willing to be second in that regard. So after this, I have you doing an illustration where I want you to kind of think about a time where maybe you were embarrassed or humbled, but in the long run it ended up going to help someone else. And if there's time, I've also included some links to some YouTube videos. There's an awesome YouTube channel called I Am Second. It's kind of where we get our big idea from. They came up with the idea of calling it that. But there's stories, and I would encourage you, if you have time, maybe watch one of those stories together as a group. There's a story from an MMA fighter, an Olympic gold gymnast, and then also a singer. And just watch their story and see how God humbled them and helped them realize that they needed to be second in their life. And then kind of turning the conversation, how is humility okay? Having them discuss, has there been a time where they felt like they were humiliated or humbled, or something hard happened in their life where they couldn't be first? And then really drawing out this, how does joy and humility coexist? And in James 4:10, it says that we need to humble ourselves before the Lord, and He will exalt you. We can know that anytime that God asks us to be humble, anytime that He humbles us, in the long run, it's going to be better. You might not feel it in the moment, but in the long run, it will be better if we're humbled. And so we get to the very end, application. It's time to do something about it. And specifically, what I'd like you to have them begin thinking about is, what are some ways that they can put themselves second and begin thinking more significantly about others in the church, towards Jesus, and even towards the lost. And so I've given some different ideas, but I'd like them to try to think about it first, like asking them that way. How can you put Jesus first this week in your life? Maybe that's praying more. Maybe that's actually reading the Bible like we talked about this past week. Maybe that's, just thinking about Him more, thinking about what He would do in your situation. How can you serve the lost? How can you serve your families, your neighbors, your friends? How can you put them as being more significant than yourself? Because at the end of the day, that's why Jesus was exalted. He wasn't exalted because He was a great teacher. He was exalted because He was willing to humble Himself, be obedient to the point of death, even the death on a cross. And because He placed Himself second, God has exalted Him. The same thing's true about you and me. As Christians, if we join Jesus in the cause of placing ourselves second to put others' needs before us, God will exalt us. And that's what we look forward to as Christians. So I hope this is helpful. I say Lord willing. Lord willing, I maybe won't see you this Sunday because we'll have the baby. And then again, God may continue to show me that I'm second. My desires, my goals, my goal for this baby is second to His idea about when the baby needs to come. But either way, I love you guys. As a quick reminder, we are going to be having our volunteer kickoff event this Sunday with a lunch. There'll be free lunch. Love for you to stick around right after the 11 o'clock service, and we'll have some fun just kicking off the year together, establishing some unity as a team before our promotion Sunday happens, and we kind of end up changing some things up. So I'd love to see you there, and I hope you have a great week.